Welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. Join Janet and her friends as they gather at the intersection of consciousness and self-experience, what being consciousness in human form is all about. Access heart-centered awareness with them and feel the difference in the moment that will last a lifetime.
Hello, and welcome to Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet. I'm your guide, Janet Barrett. I'm delighted to have you join me here on your journey of enlightenment. Our time together is a powerful place of peace, calm, quiet, the sacred, and the seemingly chaotic ripples that everyday life can be. It doesn't have to be that way, chaotic, but for many it shows up that way as reflections of their inner state of being. In this physical world that is all about contrast, perhaps this is the parallel energetic path running alongside of us unobserved. We crossing back and forth between what we are conscious of, the chaotic, and what we are not conscious of often, the serenity and being. And how in each life this all operates together, never separate as we are trained to think in our labels, but in a dance of shades of lights and dark tones that heart holds in each of us. For this episode, I'm going to go with the flow of our conversation, as I always do in crafting our finished creation. Ilarion and I had such a wonderful time. It contains his references for being, and we explore them in very thought-provoking fashion. Time expanded for us and you. I am honoring the integrity created and not making 2 episodes out of the length. There just didn't seem to be a place to stop and start again. This podcast is not about sound bites, though it contains them. It's about states of being and accessing your consciousness, spirituality, God, source, universe, cabbage, whatever you choose to call this realm, and nourish yourself in ways unique to each of us. For this episode, all the elements which I would usually mention and wrap around our conversation, I have posted on my website's episode podcast page at www.janetandbeyond.com. Tom's meditation this episode is Unity of All Life. It will help add and bring into awareness our connections with nature and others. It will be posted at his website, Interlude and Internet Retreat, and you can listen to it at my YouTube channel, Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet Barrett, for episode 16. You will also find the link to my blog, Consciousness and Hello, My Other Self, there. Our topic this episode is Consciousness and a Wisdom Weaver's Guide to Living with Ilarion Merculieff. What do our Indigenous family members know in healing our destructive sense of separation in self, other, and Mother Earth? How hard could it be? Joining me is Ilarion Merculieff, Nangan Aleut Elder, founder of the Wisdom Weavers of the World, an Indigenous Elders community. He and I will join in creating together this space to feel the beat of our hearts and those around you in the rhythm of life.
In the light of love, we are home. In the light of love.
My desire with this podcast is to make available and bring into focus the power in authentic voices that display the diversity of being in form and in our oneness. I wanted a Native American or First Nation voice to be part of this enriching podcast series, as all my friends as guests do. They share with us their awareness of consciousness, spirit, and life, and the relations of healing our illusions of separateness within ourselves, with others, and this unique planet and beyond form. My friend Bud, who's been guest a couple of times and lives in Alaska, had just the right guy in mind to suggest, Ilarion Merculieff, and I am tickled and honored that he accepted my invitation. So here's his stats, and he has so many. So I've really kind of shortened this down. So you can, at his websites, which I'll list later, you can get all the facts. But Ilarion Merculieff, represents his people as elder of the nangan of the Privial Islands, 300 miles off the coast of Alaska in the Bering Sea. That's way up there. He was raised in the traditional nangan Aleut way and received his nangan name of Kuyak. This name is given to one person in each lifetime among his people. It means an arm extending out from the body, a carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, a messenger. Today, he is the living legacy of this name. This legacy has kept him very busy. He has spent over 50 years representing his people and culture in their home state of Alaska. His voice has been heard in over at least 8 different positions of government on several levels for years in Alaska, representing her native peoples. This included time as director of the Department of Public Policy and Advocacy in the Rural Alaska Community Action Program. He has also worked with an often adversarial government and won the right for his people to feed themselves. Just listen to that, to feed themselves. Ilarion's heart has led him to develop his positions involved with marine life and the life of Mother Earth. He is more than qualified to speak on climate change and snow change and the effects if uncorrected. Other concerns his heart keeps track of are related to cultural and community wellness, traditional ways of living, and using elder wisdom. His is a strong voice in activism, calling for the meaningful application of traditional knowledge and wisdom attained from elders both in Alaska and in indigenous cultures throughout the world, in dealing with our modern-day challenges. His present work is with a new organization he has founded called the Wisdom Weavers of the World, www.wisdomweavers.world, to take the message of the elders to global attention. He says that boating, fishing, and work are his passion, so they are not work, but his joy, and his joy is to share this when meeting people. He is a spiritual man who listens and speaks in truth and walks his talk. It is my absolute delight and honor to share with him in this conversation. And I want to thank you for joining me today, Ilarion. Thank you so very much. How are you doing in your end of the world?
I'm one. I said, hello, my other self. That's the way we greet each other in my people's way every day. And I said, the afternoon tastes good. So I'm doing great.
Now, can you say it again slowly so I can hear that? I think that's just marvelous. Thank you.
On one, that's hello, right. Other self. Kamagala echamna, kamagala kasuda. The afternoon tastes good.
Oh, wow. It sounded sort of Hawaiian, some flavors in there. How wonderful. Now you're from the wilds of the islands of Alaska up there. Just how close to the Arctic Circle are you?
I don't know, but we're in the middle of the Bering Sea.
Okay. How do you register space around you?
Well, the island that I come from is 12 miles long and 5 miles wide. And so we can see ocean and horizon 360 degrees.
Oh, my goodness. Oh. And you travel the world these days, right?
Yep.
So where do you fly in and out of?
Well, I just came back from Sweden. We'll be going to France and Prague in October. Before that, I was in Israel.
And do you fly out of Anchorage, or do you go to Canada, or how do you do all that?
Out of Anchorage. Yeah, so
wow.
It took me 2 days to get to Israel.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for joining all of us today. So we're going to start off. I think we'll let me just take a moment here, everyone, and let's just be present. See how we're doing with that at this point. Ilarion is an elder of his people and of the indigenous cultures of the world, and you can feel his great depth of being present. So let's just notice, each of us in our own way, how we experience. And we'll talk with him about what consciousness is and his terminology and how he reflects how the world works and where we are from his space and place of being on a very small dot on the earth that has 360 perspective. That has got to make a difference in a person's viewpoint of life. So just notice. There we go. There you go. And just let go of the day and just be with us. And we'll see what the wisdom is for all of us. So, Ilarion, what do you notice right in this moment?
Well, first of all, the fact that you started off this way, to be present, is the way that we start off all of our meetings.
All
check
right.
with each other and see if anything is bothering our hearts or blocking us from being in our hearts, and we talk about it.
You know, Steve Farrell, who is the worldwide director of Humanities Team, talked to me several weeks ago about how all the world leaders that he works with in his around his organization, they're very conscious of the elephant in the room, and what they call the elephant in the room, and how to be okay being present with it. Is this kind of sort of what you're reflecting on here? Is that how challenging things are and where to come to consensus about being present with it?
Yeah, I think that is one of the greatest challenges for human beings, is to be present and in the heart. It's very difficult for most people.
Well, we look to make it easier here.
Yeah.
So we're going to get rid of all that hard and difficult stuff, and not to play, but to appreciate that that's actually part of perhaps the elephant, is how we think that has to be hard. But it's really about perspective and being more open and in the presence of whatever your spiritual nature is, and realizing to move out of that place, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but for most people, it's the hardest journey to make in their lives.
Okay. So if we put it in that reference, everyone, just notice how you're doing on your journey. Let's see what you notice as we continue our talk with Ilarion, and what he has noticed about the world and his traditions and in the indigenous cultures that have so much to offer us. So tell us more. Where do we go with this? We're being present as best we can. What do we do with it?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about how I grew up and where I grew up from. I mean, my people have been out in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years, and we're still there. And we really developed one of the most sophisticated spiritual cultures in North America for our time. We can trace our roots all the way back to Egypt, from Egypt to Outer Mongolia to Siberia to Kamchatka and across by boat. And my people were very spiritual. That, for example, we're the only Alaska Native culture that doesn't have food storage technologies living in a very difficult place to eke out a living, and yet we developed the most densely populated linear mile of shoreline in North America for our time. And,
Wow.
and our people were the only Alaska Native people that didn't have footwear even in the wintertime.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
A hardy lot for sure.
Yeah.
What I'm noticing with that, Ilarion, is you have what so many people question for themselves. It sounds like, feels like you have a sense of self.
Yeah.
In the sense of your community, of your, you know, where you're from. You know, I mean, to that degree. Because so many of us question who we are and where we're from and don't know 2 generations back of any family lines, usually, unless there's something so dominant. But you're talking about, you hold the awareness in your culture and in your being of where you are from as a people, as a humanity, and how you've incorporated that spirituality has taken the steps along the way. Does that make sense?
No question about that. I mean, my generation was the last generation that had a fully intact traditional upbringing, and and my traditional name Kuyuk was given to me by the last Kuyuk that was left alive amongst all of our people along the Aleutian chain and Pribilof Islands. And he gave me that name at 4 years old, and so we call each other Kuyuk. And then also at that age, I had to, for my grandfather to get to know me and for me to get to know my grandfather, I had to be with him 24/7 for 2 years. And so I went to work with him. I went to have tea with his friends, and we prayed down in the Bering Sea, splashing the water over us. And that night we might go to the Russian Orthodox Church. You know, he didn't see the distinction between where one got one's spirituality. And he taught me much of probably the most important thing amongst our people, where one day we were out in the Bering Sea, next to the Bering Sea, and it was a beautiful day, which is very unusual for our place because we get 20 days of sunshine a year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so this day, and it's always blowing, it's called the birthplace of the winds. And so this day was calm, the sea was calm, the blue skies, sunshine, the birds were singing, the seals were barking, and it was so beautiful that I had to express the beauty of it. And I said, geez, it's sure beautiful out in Unang and Tuna, which is our language. And
Jesus, huh?
Yeah, and so he put his finger to his lips and he says, Tuda. And in that one word, he probably encapsulated why and how our people survived and thrived in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years. And Tuda means listen. And instead of expressing it, our people know that the most important things in life are to be experienced, not to be expressed, because expressing it, we condense the meaning for us.
Right, right.
So he, and because, you know, words are considered unnecessary and maybe even dangerous. And so I come from that kind of tradition. And then at age 5, I had an acha, which is a relationship between a younger and older person. And when we saw each other, I mean, it's not a function of position or relationship or anything like that. It's just that when a young person sees an older person and vice versa, they know that that's my acha. So we call each other acha. and it's a spiritual kind of thing. And the reason for that is, well, for example, from age 5, he took me under his wing from age 5 to age 13. And he taught me about what it means to be a man, to be in a relationship, to have reverence for all life, for sharing, caring, ethics, and values of the Unangan people. And yet, in those years he had me under his wing, he may have said 200 words to me.
Oh, my goodness. Uh-huh.
He taught me much of what I know just by watching, observing, and being ourselves. I mean, the adult's responsibility was to create the space for a child to learn, not tell them what to learn, how to learn, or define anything. So I grew up not asking a single question.
Oh my goodness, what a fascinating way to experience being.
Yeah.
Now, was this a hereditary position? This was a family. You knew this from the beginning, kind of thing. This being what you were to become.
It's not a family thing. Kuyak is a name given to one person each lifetime amongst all of our people.
I see. Right.
And what it means is like an arm extending out from the body, carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, messenger. And so I am living the legacy of my name now, which is messenger. But I had a magical upbringing as a child. I mean, we had an island that described how small it was, surrounded by 1.2 million northern fur seals, 2.5 million seabirds, 1,000 reindeer, and 450 Unangan people. And it was a place to be.
So you literally were in the arms of nature.
Yes.
That the man print wasn't so prevalent, but it was in this relationship of where nature predominated and all those different designs, and then there's the human design.
Yeah.
And so you definitely come through your own being in this form. Exactly. About how you're all how there's no arrogance to be found in that, I don't think.
No. I mean, it allowed, the way that I was brought up allowed me to expand to the maximum of my capability without the prescription of an adult telling me what to learn, how to learn, or define anything. And so it was my responsibility to grow as much as I could possibly grow. And
so that was in you, though, right? This wanting to grow and explore and be part.
Of course.
Yes, I mean, you were selected out of those children's of your generation, to follow through with this. Yeah. I just want to be clear about how that order works. So
I was selected out of all the children amongst all the Unangan people of the Bering Sea.
Gosh, got it. Wow. All right. So what is it like to grow up with us? It sounds like a sense of security, but without dictates.
Yeah, well, it was a contrast life that I had, where I had the freedom of an Unangan child, and the adult never looked down on a child. They only get involved with the child or intervene when the child's doing, but if they're in something dangerous. Other than that, they just create the space for the child to learn, and as compared to today, where all the school settings, from from the get-go, from the time that you're born to the time you die, you're told what to do, how to do it. You're defining everything. You're told what to learn, how to learn. It's totally opposite or reverse of what we grew up with. And this is really one of the issues, because originally there was a time when everybody in the world lived this way. And then this imbalance happens, and we left our hearts and the present moment. And when we did that, we separated from everything else.
So is this, do you think, about freedom? Because what you describe sounds like freedom in just expressing from an early age. And that I know so many people that I work with as clients, or, just comes across, is they have this sense of lost freedom, and they're looking for it, right? They feel constrained. They can't express themselves. They want to be, etc. And maybe it's because there's this awareness on that deeper levels of what it was to just be, even in form here. Because that's, my thing is, I think children need champions. They need someone who just loves, just, doesn't judge, doesn't say what you have to do, exactly kind of what you're describing. And when that energy is missing, they feel it the rest of their life. And, we get into these issues. So let me see, there's so much there. Oh my goodness. So in currently the culture, you're saying that school is starting to imprint the children in your community differently. Is that it?
I think every culture in the world is living that kind of
Got it.
Except for some indigenous cultures. Now, in contrast, and perhaps I was born there to see this contrast, is that we were the only Native Americans that were enslaved by the U.S. government until 1966. So you're talking to someone who was a slave, and I mean slave in every sense of the word, where the government agent was judge, jury, and police officer, and what he says goes, and all letters from the island were censored by the government agent. You couldn't leave the island. Protest was dealt with very harshly, with jailing, deportation off the island without your family. Or demerits from the government rations that were given to us, and the government foreman would browbeat the men every single day of their lives, and so it wouldn't be uncommon to hear the government agent say, "You stupid Aleut, it takes 5 minutes to dig a ditch." That kind of thing. I got to experience and live that life while I was living the life, the traditional life, where I had the freedom that very few children have today. I was never even scolded when I was a child. And because when it's our understanding that when you scold a child, it's really injurious to them, because we're spirit beings in human form, and the spirit being in this young human form is exposed to everything, including harsh words or actions, and that traumatizes the soul at a very young age. And so I was always treated with respect and never looked down upon as just a child, for example.
So what catches my ear again, and this time I can hear it. You were allowed, or you were reared, or I'm trying to remember what the word we use for people, brought up in an environment where it wasn't about what you would grow into so much as a worker bee, as my son, as my, I guess okay, there is so much energy here. It's about, I know in my culture, um, accomplishment, success, title, entitlement have come to have meaning. It wasn't about being. Never was it about being, unless it was, well, that's okay. You're just a girl. That was about the being. As opposed to, well, you got to get out there and you got to train and you represent me and you're my son and blah, 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 blah. It sounds like that's not a part of how you experienced in being.
That's very true. I mean, we were taught to give and not think about taking, which is ourselves. We're always taught to consider the reverence of the animals, of all life, of all sentient beings, of all human beings, and that was the way that we grew up. And so even my elders, like you probably don't know this, but during World War II, our people were taken by the U.S. government to abandoned canneries thousands of miles away from home and imprisoned.
Oh, goodness. All right. No, I didn't know, but it doesn't surprise me, I guess. All right.
Like the Japanese Americans, we lost 10% of our population due to malnutrition and disease at the hands of the U.S. government.
Right.
And like the black people, we were enslaved. And like the Jews, we had our Holocaust. The Russians came in and within 50 years wiped out 80% of our population.
Wow.
And despite all that, the elders that I grew up with didn't have bitter or hateful bone in their body.
Why do you think that is? Why why not?
Because
what was it that they knew that we need to know?
Because of the way they grew up. And so on and so forth. I mean,
well, it's that things happen and you just deal with it, or is it, it's just a part of life, or what is the grace there that?
Well, we know we are spirit beings in human form, and my mother would say, when a baby is born, we cry. When they die, we celebrate. And the reason for that is, of course, that when we take human form, we're constrained from a formless form. And it's very difficult being a human being. And when we die, we go back to our formless state. And so we celebrate that. It's a foundational understanding from what we call the original instructions. And these original instructions were not invented by our people. They were given to us from the Spirit, the Great Spirit that lives in all things. And so we are that kind of sentient being. And so we understand that there are injustices in the world and bad things do happen, but it's how we deal with it that's the most important thing. And how we deal with it with love, with compassion, with empathy and understanding. And there is no sense of suffering as such.
You speak so clearly there. So so you're talking about the experience in being and as consciousness and spirituality and being of the spirit, where it embraces oneness, where we're all in this together, and it embraces wholeness. That things happen and it's how you respond and what comes of that. And Oh, everyone, just feel that. Now, this is a man who's experienced all those elements for his society, his culture, and he brings to us in a different language per se, and in different words, and the unspoken, because we're really dealing with the unspoken here. We understand how small language is and how limiting it is. So from that place where the words just kind of create some clarity, but they can also create great confusion, we can feel that we're no different. I want you to really get that, because in our political climate in this country and in the world, we are really fighting on some levels tooth and nail about this diversity of life and the separateness that we hold at times. And this man is talking from a place where his whole culture is based that there is no separation. That is a man-made illusion that's been created for whatever reasons. And we don't judge it. We just look to see how internally we each deal with it. And he's telling us our responses of love and kindness, compassion, appreciation is at the core of everything. And what that's like. And what difference. And you wonder if you, the individual, make a difference in the world. And I guarantee you that as each of us recognize this in ourselves, it makes a difference in the world. Well, what else you got in your bag of tricks there, Ilarion? You've now put us down to the common layer. So what else you got? What do you got to offer us?
What you said is exactly right, that the separation is because of an imbalance that was created in the beginning of time as we understand it.
Right. Okay, I get that.
And when we left our hearts and the present moment, and we left it due to guilt, shame, remorse, anger, rage, jealousy, all these things that keep us in the past, or fear, which is something that is projected into the future that hasn't happened yet. Every place the infinite now. And so when we left that infinite now, we created time. And we did it by this, the way we explain it is there is a pendulum that swung back and forth since the beginning of time. And it swung from masculine imbalance to feminine imbalance, back to masculine imbalance and feminine imbalance, blah, 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 until about 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, the last swing of this pendulum was swung to the masculine imbalance, which is what we are in now.
Okay, so tell us that swing is happening the other direction. Go ahead, tell us.
Yeah. Well,
no, is it not? It's not there yet.
The elders I work with, they said that we have the opportunity for the first time since the beginning of time to stop this pendulum from swinging back and forth and resting in dead center. In our generation, we have that opportunity. But to do so requires what Indigenous people around the world understand is that we have to change our consciousness from the mind to the heart. And that the reversal that was caused by this masculine imbalance is that made the mind the dominant force instead of the heart, when traditionally it's the heart that would tell the mind what to do, and the mind's job is to figure out how to do it. And we reversed that now. Now the mind tells the heart what to do. And what we see created in the outer world is the results of this kind of consciousness. The elders would say, we criticize others on the outside because we're criticizing ourselves on the inside. We trash the environment outside because we're trashing the environment inside. We judge others outside because we're judging ourselves. When a person comes out very critical, it tells me more about that person than it does about me.
Right. Yes. Oh, I'm so happy to hear my own viewpoints being reflected by you and your communities. Oh my goodness. Right. So oh yes. All right, everyone, listen up here. This isn't that hard. Just notice. He's saying that what shows up in your world is a reflection of what is in your inner world. And if we take responsibility, and I didn't hear any victim, I hear no victim thinking in anywhere what he's describing, even in their interaction with government and such, that it's being responsible, you do the best you can, and you look at what happens around you as, if that was a reflection of myself, what's going on? When I feel petty, what's petty in me? When I feel separate, what's separate in me? And Ilarion is asking us to go inward, to be present, be in this field of heart-centered awareness, and just notice. And you don't do it from a judgmental place. You offer yourself your own love, kindness, respect. You appreciate your experiences that we've all created and have been part of. Can't change the past. You can change how you relate to them, those events. Does that sound about right, Ilarion?
Yep, that's absolutely right. You know, when you think about the world's ills, the wars, the refugees, the political corruption, the suicides, the murders, all these things, the abuse of women, these are all reflections of the place that we have put ourselves, which is separate from everything else in the world. So when I separate from my heart, it's easy for me then to separate from you, and then you to the world, and from the world to Mother Earth. And so we separate all these different things when we understand that the way we greet each other, Angwan, hello, my other self.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yes, and so hello, my other self is a philosophy, or not a philosophy. It's a way of being that all peoples in the world used to have, and since we separated, we no longer are there. And so it's very difficult in the logic, rational, centered, mind-centered world to go to the heart, because the heart isn't rational. It isn't logical. And and if you go to your heart and allow your heart to tell you what you need to do, most of the world today would think you're nuts. And but this is what is being required. And the elders that I work with, the wisdom weavers of the world, say that the generations that are alive today, are going to decide the fate of humankind. And I can't emphasize this enough, that it is our generations that are going to decide whether or not human beings are going to survive and thrive on Mother Earth or not in our generation. I mean, now that's very few years. And so the one
to play,
we will,
I guess, around 2000 or sometime before that. Okay, are we still there?
Yeah, we will survive.
Okay.
If
we're hearing some sounds, Ilarion. Hold on just a moment. We're gonna 3653 stop just a minute. Boyd, are you catching the sounds?
Nope. It's clear here.
Wow. Okay, there was all kinds of bells and whistles and so
Yeah,
Ilarion, you're kind of lit up, I can tell. Okay. All right. So if you'd make a note that we're going to restart here. Countdown 3, 2. Are you there, Ilarion? You all right?
Yep, I'm okay.
All right. So we're going to start again up at 3, 2, 1. Ilarion, what I'm hearing you talk about is something I've been holding awareness, I guess, of like before 2000 when we had our election and all the things going on. It was a real sense within me that there was no leadership, that it was going to switch to us becoming our own self-leaders, and that we had to start doing our work and paying attention because it comes down to us in this reflection. What I'm also catching, so that scene I think fits in along with your Indigenous Council. What I'm also noticing when you use the word heart, for myself, heart is the physical organ, it's the emotional terrain, and it's the core essence of all. It is consciousness, it is spirituality, etc. When you're using it so strongly as you do, is it embodying all those facets, or are you talking more of just emotional, or how when you use heart, where is that coming from?
It's the place the only place that is in connection with the divine.
Okay.
And for women, it includes the womb.
All right.
And so my people, for example, were egalitarian.
Okay.
But the women were the ones that initiated the shamans, because the women, the way that we explain it is there's a womb at the center of the universe. It's a place of creation and creativity. And that's where we get our original instructions from. And the identical field of energy, if you will, is in the woman's womb. And this is why women all over the world used to be considered sacred. And now we have forgotten that.
It's been in a defacing position for several generations, I think.
More than defacing, it's the women healers, women high priestesses, women in general, Mother Earth-based cultures, and Mother Earth herself have suffered horribly during this imbalance at the period that we are in now.
Do you think is that part of why Mother Earth is suffering so much with climate control and issues like that? Do you think, is there an unconscious bias there from this powerful man, a force or principle or whatever is engaged?
The imbalanced masculine.
And thank you. There it is. Okay.
It is violating everything feminine. And so and we're still in that period now where women in many societies are treated as less than human, are murdered and all that. And native cultures, they're not any different. And so all these things are still with us today if we think about it. And that the elders are saying that it's going to be the women who lead the way to the new world, and the men's job is to protect the sacred space of women so they can do their work.
Okay, we got to stop right there because that's something we want to really just resonate in. All right, everybody, be paying attention. Notice that what it is like for women to carry the womb of creation. And we know that, but let's just really bring his awareness to the place here. And to feel that. And whether you're man or woman listening, you can feel that in the women that are around you. And you want to notice how you treat that. How have you treated it? What do you notice in the moment? If there's some emotional resonance, if there's some kind of charge, what you want to do is just be present to that and allow yourself to be with it. And in noticing what happens when you're willing to be present to your wound, because that is a wound. And one thing that holds and helps a wound into healing is when it's noticed and we step aside and allow the natural healing elements to take place. All we can do is take care of it. We can't heal it. That has to come from within. I can clean it. I can put it back together, and I can bandage it. But it is the life within, those tissues and those bones and those being that are generating the repair. So this is a wound he's talking about. It creates separateness. It creates harm. It creates destruction. What he's talking about is within each of us. It is in our genetic shared memory. It is in our morphic resonance. So as you look at it from an honest place within yourself, that ripples out into the field. There we go. You cannot repair a wound if you don't know you're bleeding. You cannot clear disease if you don't know you're diseased. So we each need to let go of what we think we are in our short, small, tight, limited viewpoint of being, and step back and open the heart. It doesn't have to hurt, and if you have it set up that way, that's what you look at. There we go. What are you noticing, Ilarion, in this moment?
Well, I am glad that you take the time during a conversation like this to help people get back into feeling and getting into the heart and being present in the moment. I mean, this is the first conversation that I've had like this that anyone has done that. So.
I can say I'm pleased, thank you, and not so. Yeah. Because this is what every life is about, right? In the moment, being present, noticing what's going on, what you're experiencing. Yes. Well, thank you very much. It's my delight to share this with you. So just notice, all of you, all of us, you can feel how quiet it is out there. And that's not stillness in the sense of static. That's stillness in the sense that flow. There we go. That is grace and appreciation and what we're all looking for. A clear connection to who we are. And where Ilarion has his so deeply, knows where he's from and who he is in relation to all, we can tag that. Notice what he's holding for us. What would it be like to have his sense? You have it in you. You just are holding it in a different level of awareness. Everything that ever was is. It's not about going out there to get something. It's about opening up within. Yeah. Well, what do you notice, Ilarion?
Well, I was just feeling this. when you go to your heart, the sages of the world have always said, you have all the answers in you. Mm-hmm. And what they mean by that is that you get present in the moment and drop into the heart and you listen to the heart, which is a special kind of listening. And the heart will tell you what you need to know. And your mind will get that information and figure out what it is, how to implement what the heart is telling you. And so each person right now in this, on this earth, Mother Earth, has a special gift to give during this time. We are at the threshold of human survival and survivability. And the only answer, you think about, oh, geez, climate change, that's too big for me, or there's these wars, and we've been praying for thousands of years for the end of wars, and they're still there, and all these kinds of things, that instead of feeding that kind of thought, reaction to existing situation, just go into the heart, and the heart is original. It will tell you what you need to do, and each person is totally different. And each person alive today is the guru. There's no single guru anymore. We're all gurus. And to tap that guru self, you have to go into your heart. And for the women also to go to the womb.
All right. So when you're talking heart, that's why I just wanted to be clear about this. You're not talking about your emotional heart in the sense of where all the wounds and everything are. This is where I hear this as the core essence of all that you're connecting with. So because we know when people are in pain or they're in fear, they're very biased in their stories and they can't hear anything except the story running that just maintains itself. You're asking us to go beyond that, deeper into it, connect with whatever our idea of source is, whatever our word is, and be willing to listen to the wisdom that is already there. You don't have to go out. You don't have to listen to anybody. All we're going to do is encourage you to go back to that place and hopefully maybe have a few offerings as far as, okay, this is some steps you can take if you don't already feel that. But in each of our ways of observing and honoring ourselves, that in that quiet and how you ask the question, there is a response to that authentic place. And it's engaging it, which is where maybe sometimes there can be issue. When you hear that inner voice that says, you've got to stop doing that. Because it might show up that way for some people, or it might just be, well, here's what happens if we don't do it that way. And how we encode being willing to take steps. Don't you think that becomes part of it? You get to a place where you can hear, then you have to engage what you hear. And I think there's been this real movement of people that are really exploring, and they're realizing the artificiality of what they've learned about life, and they're going back to this place. And then it's how to engage it.
Yeah, that's right. Our elders call this the reverse society or the inside out society because we reversed all the laws for living. And one of the most principal ones now, of course, is that we reversed the laws for living, which is to be in the heart and the heart telling the mind what to do. Now the mind tells the heart what to do. Yeah. And so, the Hopi Maori say, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move to the center, find those who have done the same, and celebrate. Now, what that means is letting go of the sides of the riverbank is letting go of all your human attachments.
Okay.
And that's a frightful thing for most people.
Right.
And so when you do that, it's like jumping off a cliff. And then move to the center means moving to your center, your proverbial center, which is your heart. And also the center is the river of life, and it knows where it's going. We don't. And then find those who have done the same means find those who have had the courage to jump like that. And those are people are going to be your new tribal member. The old form of tribe is disappearing. The new form is the form of finding people of similar heart and mind.
Would you say that what is present? I use this reference for myself. I know I am okay. And how I get that is through my awareness of myself as being, as essence, as spirituality, as consciousness, etc. I have that inner security, that inner serenity in place. And that's kind of perhaps, it's easier to let go of the side of the bank and be in the river when you know that you're all right. And I'm all right whether I hit a rock or whether I just fly or whether it doesn't matter. And I think that when you're letting go of the side of the bank, the river bank, you're allowing yourself to just be. And I think, and in knowing that in the state of wholeness, when life's ups and downs are all around and you just deal, I have that. Is that already in place in your culture, in that wisdom that you have? That sense of whatever happens, you're all right?
Well, my people, the reason they didn't have any food storage technologies is that they didn't plan for how they're going to get the food to survive, to support our growing population each and every day. They just trusted. Now that means trust in self, trust in life, trust in the universe, trust in the great spirit that lives in all things, including us. Just simply trust. And it means embodying that trust, not thinking that trust.
Right.
Being it. And that when you do that, you are, even our elders would say, even the birds don't worry about where they're going to get their food tomorrow. Why are we any different?
So even when you have an outside government man who's going to dictate whether you feed or not, that is still part of it, right? It is something you deal with when it shows up. You don't set up that it's going to happen. You're not invested in a future directing your energy that way. You're in the moment, it sounds like. Got it. And then there was so much nourishment around you. Oh, my goodness. I mean,
and the way the world is constructed now, we are schooled to plan. And to plan everything in our lives. And the reverse is actually true, that we must just simply let go and trust, but trust at a level that most people have a hard time doing, which is embodying it, not thinking it, but embodying it. And that's difficult for most people.
Do you think that's part of our investment in knowledge? Right. We love statistics. We love things that measure against things. And then we extrapolate and make assumptions and presumptions out of that data, out of the history, for instance. And what we're doing is just recreating it. We're expanding it. And we're taking it in a direction that may have nothing to do with truth.
That's absolutely right. The thing is, when you think, is this life affirming? Is this life sustaining? And the answer for most things in the world today is no, this is not. If it is not, you must ask your heart what it is that you must do to correct this malformation. Because we are we have only a few years left to decide whether or not we're going to be here on this planet. And we've got to take responsibility for ourselves. The elders say the most important thing that you can do right now is when you take your finger and point it outward, turn it around and point it to yourself. Because the most selfish thing that you can do right now is to heal yourself, to get present in the moment and in the heart.
And if someone's using the word that's being selfish, I would say that was being selfishlessness, right? That is acknowledging and doing your own healing in the face of what community or anyone around you might say, and taking that time. We used to have, I believe, in a lot of businesses where you took a sabbatical, you went away, you explored life, you came back, and you were different, and you enriched the environment that you were in. The school, the learning ran on that fresh input coming in to what could be stagnant traditional learning, right? You had to have that new input coming in there.
Yeah. The mind, I'll tell you, from my viewpoint, everything that is considered state-of-the-art today, the state-of-the-art thinking, the state-of-the-art technologies, they're all regurgitation of the old in new form. We just don't recognize it.
Yeah. Everything goes around, comes around, right?
Yep. I mean, you pick anything like the hybrid cars, for example. I mean, it's supposed to be a good idea, right, for the environment? Well,
except for the battery, right?
That's right, the battery. And what's put in the batteries is exotic minerals. And are we going to deal with them? What's going to happen to them when they're finished their usefulness? Are we going to recycle them like we do our computers, where we send them to Thailand and poor countries, and the poor people take it apart for the precious minerals, and they poison themselves and they poison each other? I mean, there's just no critical thinking around that.
So it's important. What you're talking about in being present is paying attention to what you eat, where it came from, how you fixed it, what happened through it, when you pass through your body, and where does it go from there? Where does the waste that in just the sheer creation of it you've put, where does it go? Everything is so interrelated, and most of us have that convenience of mind, where something happens and then, okay, that's it, and it goes on to the next thing because it doesn't have to think about it anymore. And what we've done is our disservice to ourselves, because we're not seeing our connectivity. We're not seeing where outcome and income are related, except in, well, it took this much out of me to get this much, and is that worth? What we're looking at is the connectivity of doing an action here, bringing it to fruition, what's invested and involved in that, and what happens with it. And no, it's not for everyone to track that, but if you just stop, if we each get present someplace along that path, you can make a change. And I think that's what your council is so aware of. Yep. That we have to make the effort. And if it's effortless, okay, everybody notice, this is easy. This is the easiest thing you will ever do, is to be present in this state. And if it's whatever you took for you to get to your center through your heart, to all of us, and to be part of us, however you're holding those degrees of awareness, It is easy as taking a breath. You don't even think about it. It is easy as your heart beating. You don't even think about it. Both can happen in the same moment. You don't even think about it. And all the other systems, chemistry, dynamics, forces, all that is happening all at the same time for you to blink your eye. And in the blink of an eye, everything can change when it's coming from a place of awareness. Don't believe everything you see, because your eyes are geared towards survival and in certain areas. Don't believe it all. Be your truth. Be present. Know you're important. And to help you hold that, be with others that you share that with. Extend your hand. Offer kindness, respect. How hard is it? It is not at all. And what it's telling you, if you find any of that hard, that is the place you stop and look inside. Wouldn't you say that, Ilarion?
Absolutely true. And you know, it is easy in that sense. And the elders would say, you know, what have we wrought? What have we created in this life? Nobody's thinking critically about looking at what we have created. Nothing is working now. And everywhere I go, people are starting to realize it. And they're saying, okay, the things that we used to depend on doesn't work now. What must I be doing? And so that's where I come in with my talks and my travels around the world. People are changing their consciousness, and that's a positive note.
It's what we've inherited in some degrees, don't you think?
Oh, no question. We've inherited it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we say to stop and become aware, we're factoring that in, because anything is where it is because it was, usually. And when you stop and bring awareness to this moment, you're bringing all that story and all that ever was to that moment and how you hold it. And we have been so, you know, and certainly the abuses of any system and any intention of invasion or takeover or crossing some line in the sand and what it does to people and what the outcomes are. Because we're quite savage, I think, inside on so many different levels. And that is the nature of the beast, too. I mean, you don't have to, that is part of, like, your experience. I sense deep appreciation for your experiences. That's what comes out of anything, is it makes us value what we've lost. It puts it into perspective. It gives us so many insights, and that's what wholeness is about, is we can stop. And so just because my father did something that he thought was honorable and right, it probably was honorable and right, and I get to choose how I respond to that, even though it's already in here, in me, and it's influencing me. And we all come out of families that are in their, I'm going to say, squalling, petty dynamics so often, because we're not taught how to be emotional, I don't think, too much. And this is where we find ourselves. We've gotten more involved with our things and making of things as doers, and I'm going to put that to the masculine, the doer, because that's what they do. They go get food, they do those things. And in the feminine, that is the nurturer, that is holding, creating, and holding that life. Her orientation is different. She needs the partner to bring home food and to protect and provide her and what they've brought together into the next generation. And I think what we are the result of is such compromised, split dynamics, that separateness between ourselves in our past generations. And this is where we are. So this is the opportunity to heal it, or don't be. I guess that's what it comes down to. Don't be in form. I don't have a problem with where I go when I die. I'm totally okay with that. So this is where we are, I think, as societies.
Yeah. And to be is contrary to what the imbalanced masculine says. We have to do things. We have to make things. We have to plan for ourselves. But we must recognize that we are energy beings.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of energy that we put out is the kind that we return. And so if you want peace in the world, you must be peace. If you want love in the world, you must be love. And so that's what we mean about being, that it's letting go of everything else so that you can be. And just doing that will help change the world.
So notice, everyone, because however you show up, you are in the world. So what would you like to have as your representation in the world? Right? If that's malleable, time and space and story, we don't have to apologize for who we were necessarily, unless you really feel that in yourself. What you do need to do is honor yourself. And this is a very powerful time and generations. They get to choose. We truly get to choose whether we continue or not. There is no more powerful place than that. So anyone, whatever your experience you have with what you think power is about, it's right inside your heart. You don't have to go looking for it. Doesn't matter if you feel abused by it or charged by it. It's there. And you and being you make a difference in the world. We are all connected. So if we get past our illusions and we always look back to ourselves, those ripples we send out into the field interact with other ripplers, and that connection, and it comes back to us. And it'll be different because it's experienced other.
Yep, that is so true. When you think about what is our self-talk, I'm not good enough, it's stupid, I have done that, and all these kinds of thoughts that come through our heads. The lamas, and Dalai Lama and his followers, they call it the monkey mind.
Right.
Monkey mind will do its thing. And so you don't try to stop it by meditation and stop it. You just watch your thinking process and what words you use, and become aware. Just become aware. Don't judge it. Don't criticize it. Don't do anything like that. Just watch it. And that is going to help probably solve half the problems that we're facing today.
I think if people liked what they saw, they'd be, oh, sure, I'm on board. It's that challenge that comes in and go, there's a time when I fudged, and there's another one. And we have to love that about ourselves, right? And we have to just be okay that, yes, didn't make it every day. And we've talked about this on the show with all my guests at different times in different ways. It's about appreciating and being grateful that right in this moment, you're not doing that. And if that's all you got to work with, that's where you start.
That's right.
And it's all about the next choice you make.
Yep, and it's not about making big chunks of change one time. It's just, take the little one and focus on that. And when you master that, you go to a bigger one and a bigger one. Pretty soon, everything becomes second nature. It's like a muscle. The more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Mm-hmm. It becomes part of your rhythm, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it becomes part of the rhythm. Oh, I've been so enjoying this. All right. So what else do you notice in this space we've created? There's something there that seems to want to speak?
Are you talking to your listeners?
Yeah. Talking to everybody. Go for it, Ilarion. You're there.
I guess the last thing I would share.
They're second thumbs, so you go for it.
People wonder how they can get there. Well, our elders have a simple thing that is used in Alaska and all the cultures here, and that is that our teacher for our cultures is the 2-year-old child.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the one learning about being the world around. Yeah, the world. Okay.
I was at a conference of Native Americans, 2,000 Native Americans, and in walks a 2-year-old child in the middle of our circle, and she was buck naked. She wasn't concerned about, being embarrassed or being exposed or that's the model that we use for our cultures. The way we dance, the chants, the songs, the storytelling, all of it is based on the 2-year-old child. And so, for example, because a 2-year-old child is master of energy, and they don't store this energy, they let it out naturally. And that's the way that we were built, and we forgot about that. And so one of my elders said, if you put all your feelings and swallow them and put them there, they become like stagnant mass of energy that makes you depressed, makes you do all these kind of things that makes the heart down. And that the 2-year-old child, I watched two 2-year-old children. They were playing with each other, then they got into a fight and they got mad at each other. And then after they expressed their anger, it was gone in like a couple minutes and they were playing with each other again. That's what we have to do in a society that stifles emotion. We have role model after role model after role model of where we stuff our feelings. The news media, for example, they would talk about one thing very lightly, and then the next thing could be about murder, and they don't show any feelings. And so, if a man were to cry at a meeting, that would be a no-no, for example.
Right.
And women who cry in a meeting would be put down and say she's weak or whatever. And so it's so.
But if you got angry, that would be okay, wouldn't it?
Okay, yeah.
That would be more acceptable if you were in a group and you got angry. That nobody'd have a problem with that. They would react to that, but it would be acceptable. Right. Yeah, on a level.
But that anger masks all kinds of feelings.
Right.
And so what we do is, okay, we're in the middle. We still have the old. We're trailblazers. We still have the old, and we're still trying to create the new. We're trailblazers. And so here we are in the middle, and in a society that doesn't tolerate the range of feelings that human beings have. So you say, okay, I recognize you feeling. You talk to your feelings, say, okay, I recognize you. I'm not going to ignore you. I'm going to deal with what you're saying at a later time when it's safe for me to do so.
Right.
And so you recognize it and you deal with it. And so that's the way that you would do it now when it's not safe in society to express your feelings.
So what comes to awareness is what it takes to be present for a 2-year-old in these societies where you have split families, where you have working mothers and fathers, and children are shepherded with people that don't have skills, or they're with parents that don't have patience, time, or energy to be with that child because they're forced to be into other spaces with them. And the community that comes from having family, where the society is the family, where, we all have input, where those parents with that 2-year-old can feel support, because you can feel what you said about how they're all there, and you can see where a person observing that, an adult or someone observing that, could interact in it and change those dynamics so easily. Where the children were resolving their own issues and go on to the next thing, where a person comes in and interacts and then stuff gets stuck, it gets misdirected. And that's probably what has happened in the splintering of families and, the different parenting that's become apparent for people. When you take out the male population and decimate him through war in so many different places, when you decimate the old and take them out, when you take out the injured and take them out, you're losing such a resource of coping and adaptability, don't you think?
Oh, that is so true. I mean, everything you're saying is very true as far as I'm concerned. And so, when we think about what we are doing to that child, we school them from the get-go. We tell them how to say words and all this kind of stuff. And then we get them to kindergarten, and all the desks are facing forward to who? The authority.
Yeah.
And then all the way to postdoctorate degree, we're expected to recognize and acknowledge authority.
Right, whether they really are worth it or not, right? You respect the position, but not necessarily the individual.
So what we do is we automatically give away our authority to that person. It's over some other, instead of recognizing, acknowledging, and keeping your own personal authority. Now, this is probably why I think that people feel so powerless these days and so divided in trying to fix anything, is because we expect the authority, whoever that might be, to take care of it.
Right.
And they don't.
That's right. And they have no necessarily awareness of you. This is what we've been talking about, how it creates neediness when your authority figure is outside of you and not within you. You have no security. It creates neediness. And you're totally at the dictate and whim of whoever you've empowered as follower. You're not the self-generator. You're the self-follower. And that creates a believer then. And so I'm looking to be more autonomous and realize that I am the center of my universe, and I have what I need, and that is in connection with all these other universes and all these other. That's what oneness is, and that's what spirit is for me. Is all of this. Oh, we're so talking about something I'm so passionate about, because I think we have failed so poorly to educate people about how to be emotional.
Well, we don't educate.
We don't at all. Collect numbers. You need to know how to add, sure, but how you feel about it? Oh my goodness, right? Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. So I want to stop here real quick, everybody. This is a lot of stuff. Once again, we're engaging with. I want you to notice how your 2-year-old is reacting. Yeah, I'm in there. There you go. Notice, do you have compassion for your 2-year-old? Has anyone noticed your 2-year-old? Has anyone felt with that 2-year-old? The past does not matter anymore. In this moment of being present, whatever the story is, it's the story, and that's all it is. Right in this moment, whatever you're noticing about your 2-year-old, be present for them. Just notice what it would be like to sit next to the 2-year-old. Don't direct, don't do anything, just be present. And notice what happens. There we go. Okay, that's good.
Now, when you talk about the child within, I mean, some people may say, "Oh, geez, don't talk to me about the child within. I don't have a child within." But our elders, the true elders amongst Indigenous people, are people who have a twinkle in their eye.
Oh, yeah.
And to reflect the innocence of the child and the wisdom of the elders. And we all have that capability.
For my reference about innocence, because it's an important quality, and you can feel where people feel, well, that's because you don't know any better kind of thing. You're educated into knowing something else. For me, we are always innocent, and we just gain experience. And I don't lose anything in that. I'm not less when I realize that, and if you want to know if you still have your innocence, it is that twinkle. It is that ability to recognize the smile and share with another if you have doubts. It is that ability to be in your life, have all this experience, and still have a warmth, a smile about being in form.
And know that magic exists.
Oh, that's a whole nother show, isn't it? Oh boy. That's a subject of itself. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, Ilarion, this has been so marvelous. I have a feeling we're going to have to make 2 episodes out of this for time constraints.
Well,
so oh my goodness.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, and my love to your listeners, and I know that human beings are going to make it.
Yeah.
As long as we change this consciousness from the mind to the heart.
Exactly. All right. Oh gosh. Okay, everybody. We want to thank Ilarion Merculieff. Okay, I know I said that wrong. I know, but it's okay. It's just me and my warmth. Okay, I'm really cute. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a name.
It's just a name. That's right. And so we'll do it from we'll do it from a silent place. There's Ilarion, everyone, and enjoy and thank him for being and for being able to share with us and accepting my invitation, which I was so tickled by. So I hope you will come back. Will you do another conversation with me?
I'll be glad to.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you so very much. We'll have to talk about magic. Okay, I'll remember. It's going to be about magic. And Thank you,
It's a good one.
and enjoy life.
Okay, thank you.
Got it.
In the light of love, we are home. In the light of love.
Ilarion recommended that the best way to reach him is through Wisdom Weavers of the World, www.wisdomweavers.world, where you can find out how you can be part of the community, and on Facebook at Wisdom Weavers of the World. His own website is www.jcill.org, the Global Center for Indigenous Leadership and Lifeways. But he does mention that he doesn't check it very often. Thank you for joining me here at Journeys to Enlightenment with Janet. A new episode is released every 2 weeks. Any questions or thoughts or guests you'd like to suggest, you can email me directly at janetandbeyondpodcast@outlook.com. For more information about all the elements that make up each episode, they are on my podcast page at my website, www.janetandbeyond.com. While there, you will also find information about my other podcast show, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and all about my work with clients. You can sign up to receive my regular weekly blog, Life in the Beyond, Journeys into Enlightenment. If you're looking for other regular opportunities to sit in heart-centered awareness with myself and others, you can join us in my Fuzzy Photons playground groups I offer on Wednesdays. Live interactive space via Zoom video conferencing. You can follow each episode of this podcast series on my YouTube channel, Journeys into Enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Till the next time, notice what feels different right in this moment. It is real, and it can last a lifetime.